Hey, how you doing? So I'm sitting here. I've been going over the Homelite Super XL-925 that I ported, and just kind of going over it, touched up the chain and the rakers and all that stuff. But I found some interesting things that I'd like to share with you. Recently, a gentleman posted a comment on an older video about the overheating issues of these saws, and I've discovered some things there that I want to share with you, but I've discovered some new things, and I'm kind of surprised. All right, so let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, so there she is. I just gave the chain a freshen up. You see it? Breakers, teeth, all of it. But I discovered some things here. So you know how I've been doing the air filter mod, basically putting like a gasket in under the filter. So it seems to work up to a certain point. I believe once I get to a certain point, the saw is just trying to suck through so much air that it's actually wreaking havoc. I wouldn't say wreaking havoc, but it's still getting fine sucked through. I'm finding that on all the ones that I've ported just a bit more, you know what I mean, to a bit higher performance level. The mild port jobs that filter setup, you know, that I've been using with the gasket and everything seems to be working fine. But as soon as I get to like this level here, like I really took the snot out of it, you know, she's a high revving machine and she's got to move such a high volume of air. I'm still running into issues. So there's only one way I think I can fix it, but let me know what you guys think. I think I'm going to have to start putting stack filters on these and figure out how to do it, because I'd have to elbow come up and throw a stack on, but I could also put like a thing in here at the front of the carburetor to kind of angle it up and come out. But I think I'm gonna have to start putting stack filters on, because the stock air filter setup just cannot seem to handle it once I get the snot ported out of these things, you know. Another thing is, it's a gentleman had commented on an older video about airflow, and one of the issues with these saws overheating, he thought might be because of this screen not being able to draw through enough air, because they have a tendency to plug up really easy. And he is correct, they do have a tendency to plug up easily. But if you look close, you can just remove the screen and you'd have plenty of flow, correct? So I guess you could try that. I'm not. I'm leaving the screen on there because there's only one time that I've actually got this saw hot. And that's because I was putting some alcohol in the fuel, and you know, that caused an issue. So the only time this saw has gotten hot on me, and that's by running one full tank of gas all the way start to finish. The only time that's happened is whenever I was starting to put alcohol in with the fuel mix to try to get more performance. So I actually think because I'm spinning more RPM, the saw is drawing more air and helping it cool it down. But I don't think it's that alone. See, I discovered these saws don't have enough blowdown time, and what they're doing is they still have a lot of exhaust gas in there left over from the previous charge, so that whenever it draws the new fresh charge in, you still have a lot of that leftover gas in there, and that leftover gas is hot and all that stuff, which is why I believe we have to tune them, you know, the stock saws super rich to compensate for that. And whenever I ported it and raised the exhaust port so high, I believe that is now allowing a lot more of the exhaust gases out, which then allows for a larger charge flow up past the piston. And the more fuel I move past the piston, the cooler it'll be, because the fluid will act kind of like, you know, an antifreeze. It'll cool it naturally just by having more and more fuel and oil come across it. That's what I'm finding. I'm actually not finding any heat issues. I mean, I'm not running multiple tanks out yet every time I go cutting. It's still kind of new on this piston and everything. But right now, on one full tank of gas, I have not had any heat issues. Not yet. I have been cutting on a low 90-degree day, so, you know, so far, no heat issues. I think a good sharp chain is a factor too. Now, one other thing I thought was interesting, if you guys watched the last video on this saw, let me pull this spark plug out. I'm going to show you what this plug looks like. Alright, so if you watched the last video on this saw, I felt like at the end there I had it tuned too lean. And I thought it was interesting because when I pulled the spark plug, that seems pretty good to me. I mean, she could even run leaner than that. But I'm surprised, you know? I thought it could be even leaner than that. And I thought the saw was a little too lean in the cut on that last video, which, you know, that is probably the exhaust port being cut too high. I think that's what's causing that. That kind of, you know, that idea that the saw might be too lean when in fact it's not. I think it's just because the exhaust port's so high and the saw's so zingy, you know. That's what I think. That's why I'm thinking about taking the next one and dropping it down several degrees to bring the torque up, you know, to help bring that peak RPM down. But this is intriguing though. As lean it is, I'm wondering if maybe I should do a change to my setup on this saw. See, I typically don't run skip tooth chain, but this might be a situation to run skip tooth. You know, put it on skip tooth and really scream the RPMs out of it, and just let the RPM of the saw do the work. What do you think? Should probably be north of 10,000 RPM. I'm thinking about it. I don't own any skip tooth. I've never bothered buying it. I've always run, you know, full house. But, you know, switching this saw over to skip tooth, just letting the RPM handle it, being that this spark plug, you know, I'm making this idea. I'm coming up with this idea because of the way this spark plug looks, you know. I could lean it out just a little bit more and put a skip tooth on it and just let the RPM of the saw just scream, you know, and just rely on that to make my cuts. I don't plan on this being a long bar saw. It's just meant for, you know, fun, really. We're just playing with it, figuring out how it runs at different settings and everything. But, you know, should be a high RPM saw if I did that. You know, the chain wouldn't be slowing it down as much. She'd just be able to scream. Tell me what you think. I think it might be interesting to see the results of that. I don't own any skip. I'd have to buy it, you know, but hey, tell me what you think. Kind of curious. I might do it regardless, you know, see what skip does with this saw. So in case you're wondering, there's what the sharpening kind of looks like. You know, she's off the grinder. 25 thousandths on the raker. You know, I learned a lesson with sharpening. I used to go a lot deeper on the hook than that. And I learned a lesson that if you actually go too deep, it slows you down. You know, if I go a whole lot deeper than this, it causes the chain to dig in a lot more, slowing down the saw, you know, dragging on the, you know, it really robs the torque. And I find I actually cut faster if I don't run as deep of a gullet and put it on a 25 thousandths raker. This is actually a factory recommending sharpening. So the Oregon book, this is the factory, what the factory recommends on their ankles right here. Which I can tell you, if I'm in the field and I lay a file on that thing 4 swipes, 5 swipes, and it's sharp again. So she's right in there where a file sharpens it at. And that was my goal, to get it at that point, you know. Yeah, tell me what your ideas are. Curious to see what you guys think. Now, whenever I took the saw out this last time, I left the house at 170 psi. I did a compression test. I had 170 psi when I left the house, and today I've got 180. So I gained 10 pounds of compression in that one cutting session. It was just one tank of gas, you know, however much cutting I got out of it. So I'm curious to see what happens here in the future. I'm thinking I might gain another 5 psi here in the next couple of tanks. I don't think, you know, gain a whole lot more. I think the biggest part of seating those rings has already happened. She might just do a little wee bit more, but you know, I think we're pretty much there. But I was intrigued on this spark plug, and I thought the saw was running lean before. Maybe we could just turn this into one of them saws that just screams high RPM. You know, put it on a skip tooth and just let the saw do its job, you know. Build the next one with a lower roof, you know, and put it on the torque and see what the difference is, you know. See what the difference between the two saws are and see what we like more, you know. It'd be kind of interesting. But I was kind of surprised to see the spark plug like this, because I thought the saw was lean. But, you know, according to that plug, I still got a little room to go. You know, she's pretty much spot on the money where I like to put them. She's right on the very dark side of brown. It could be leaned up just a tiny nibble, but I think we got her. Hey, you know, I think we got her pretty tuned though. But anyway, hey, I thought you guys would be interested in this little discovery. I think I'm going to start working on figuring out a way to put stack filters on these Homelites, and you know, we'll go from there. It's probably going to be pretty involved to do stack filters on these Homelites. I'm probably going to have to figure out something, but you know, we'll see what we find. Alrighty, so hey, we'll catch you on the next one. Later.